Sweden is not even close to being a humanitarian country because no humanitarian country should be selling weapons. You have a country like Sweden that's always held the title of humanitarian superpower for a very long time, but this same country is selling weapons. This same country is making a lot of revenue from weapons. So what about the people that Swedish weapons are affecting? What about the fact that Swedish weapons are indirectly stimulating unnecessary wars? This whole thing of us glorifying Sweden for being a humanitarian country, how much do we know about the Swedish government? Hey guys, welcome back to Analysis with Janet. Yeah, we talk about everything. Feel free to share your thoughts, your opinion in whatever thing you're talking about, but always remember to be polite as you share your thoughts and your opinion. So today we are going to be talking about Sweden, humanitarian superpower that is exporting weapons, stroke arms to other countries. Yes, if you know about Sweden, Sweden has always ranked itself as humanitarian superpower, and the reason why they call themselves humanitarian superpower is based on the fact that they claim how they have always held on to a policy of neutralism, where they say they're instead more about helping people, sending aid to poor countries, war zone countries, taking in refugees. You know, I think it's 2017 when the refugee crisis erupted, Sweden took a lot of refugees, which people loved and people encouraged, and that is also a good reason to call Sweden a humanitarian superpower. But wait a minute, let's talk about the humanitarian superpower country. How do they make their money? Because I know a lot of people don't even know this. I don't think a lot of people even know this, that Sweden exports weapons. People don't even know that Sweden is one of the top 10 countries in the world that exports the highest weapons to the world. Yes, Sweden is one of the top 10 countries in the world that exports the highest weapons to the world. And the thing is this is a problem with those things. The thing with it is that Swedes don't like talking about it. It's like a taboo in Sweden. The minute you talk about Swedish people exploiting weapons or talk about Swedish people manufacturing weapons, they'll just get super offended. And I remember like there was this time, I'm never gonna forget, I was like in my class, and I think it was having like this lesson, and one of my classmates were talking about how Sweden is making money off of selling weapons, and it's like indirectly creating the man-made refugee, because when you sell weapons, what's the purpose? What's the use of a weapon? Let's be honest. What do people use weapons for? You sell weapons to wars and countries, because if you studied basic economics, they tell you that if you're going to start a business, you must have a marketing strategy. You must have a target population who you're going to sell your products to. And who are the people that are more likely to buy weapons? The people that are more likely to buy weapons are people from wars and countries, people that have this tendency of leaders that have this tendency of attacking its own people because they have their insecurity of feeling like they have to rule for the rest of their lives. So indirectly, Sweden, you're selling weapons to people that are not even stable enough to control it, and those people are creating unnecessary wars in their countries that are creating man-made refugees that people have to migrate from one area to another, living in their countries. Some people don't even have homes, people are living homeless, people lack food, and then you say you're giving them aid that compensates the fact that you're selling weapons. And I remember when I was in class, and I remember my classmate saying to my teacher that, you know what, Sweden is not even close to being a humanitarian country because no humanitarian country should be selling weapons. And then my teacher was like, you know what? It's not as if when we sell the weapons, we're killing the people. It's up to the government of that country to decide what they want to do with the weapons, because you understand, it's no longer, the minute the weapon leaves Sweden, it has nothing to do with us. It's no longer in our disposal. We don't have any control over it. So the weapons, whatever they use it to, and also my teacher said how Sweden controls the fact that the weapons are not being used to kill people, rather on the contrary, they make sure that they use the weapons rightly. Then my classmate was like, excuse me, wait a minute, how do you know that the people are using it rightly? Because most of your countries that you're selling weapons to Sweden, there's unnecessary wars in those countries. Poor people don't have shelter. People are running as refugees from leaving those countries as refugees, coming to get greener pasture in other countries. So that means that the weapons are not used properly. That means the weapons are used in instead attacking these people. And my teacher was so defensive about the whole thing of how Sweden, the intention of selling weapons is not for it's not for it to be used to attack people. And in my head I was thinking like, so what's the intention? Because let's be honest, what's the use of a weapon? What's the use of a weapon? The use of a weapon is used to attack people. So how can you be a humanitarian superpower country that is claiming to help people, and then you're the same one again selling weapons that are used to create those man-made refugees, put those people in a position where they have no shelter, they have no roof over their heads, they have no water, they have no food, they have to look for it, aids have to be sent towards them, and then Sweden will be like, oh, we send aids to them, so it's compensation. No, it's not compensation, because what about the people that died through your weapons? You cannot give them food, you cannot give them shelter. What about the families you've torn apart selling your weapons? Because we need to start being realistic. This whole idea of saying that Sweden is a humanitarian country because Sweden is good, it has an open policy of taking refugees or sending aid to poor countries or war-zone countries makes them a humanitarian. But let's also think of the fact like this. Sweden is a humanitarian country that is selling weapons. Sweden makes a lot of billions from selling weapons. Yes, a weapon industry in Sweden is one of the most lucrative industries here in Sweden. So you're literally creating man-made refugees that those people are suffering. And then when you sell your weapons to them and then their government or their system decides to use it on them and then they start fleeing and so people don't have a place to live or they don't have food or clothes or basic necessities and then you send it to them, that doesn't compensate the fact that you Swedish people have sold weapons, which is wrong. Because it's like saying that, you know what, if you are a drug dealer, if you open a rehabilitation center where you put your addicts, it compensates the fact that you're selling drugs and it makes you look like a good person. But what about the people that died OD on your drugs? Those ones, you're not going to put them in a rehabilitation center. So it doesn't compensate the fact that you are a drug dealer, that it's not acceptable. So you cannot be a good person. But that's how Sweden thinks. Oh, if we sell weapons and then we give aid to those countries that are suffering from the fact that our weapons have been used on them, then it compensates the fact that we are humanitarians. No, it doesn't compensate the fact, because being a humanitarian, you should be fighting to end wars, fighting to end the injustice in the society, fighting to end the unnecessary wars that are created by us humans. You should not be indirectly encouraging it, because why I use the word indirectly is because Sweden's weapons are being used that way, and that's why I say indirectly. Because when you sell weapons to those countries and those people are being attacked and they're running for their lives, they're leaving their countries, leaving their family, leaving their valuable things behind just to come and get a good life, and then you stand in front of the borders and take them and be like, oh my god, this is it, Sweden's a humanitarian country because Sweden takes refugees. But these refugees are man-made refugees that could have been stopped. These people were not supposed to be refugees. They were not supposed to end up being refugees. They became refugees because your weapons were being used. They don't want to die in the hands of your weapons. They don't want to die that kind of way, so they have to run for their lives. But what about the people that died in the hands of your weapons? Or we just ignore like it didn't happen, or we just pretend like it didn't happen, or we just make it look like it's not a big deal? Because now we really need to really ask ourselves a question. The humanitarians that are claiming to really help us, or claiming to be the humanitarians, are they really working for the purpose of humanity, or are they just working for their selfish interests? Because you have a country like Sweden that's always held the title of humanitarian superpower for a very long time, but this same country is selling weapons. This same country is making a lot of revenue from weapons. So what about the people that Swedish weapons are affecting? What about the fact that Swedish weapons are indirectly stimulating unnecessary wars? Are we not going to address that part, or are we just going to pretend like it's not existing? Are we just going to lie to ourselves like, you know what, it's not there, it's not there? Because let's be honest to ourselves, this whole thing of us glorifying Sweden for being a humanitarian country, how much do we know about the Swedish government? I mean the Swedish system. How much do we know about Swedish system? How much? We know little or nothing. All we know is the fact that they call themselves humanitarian superpower because they keep the neutral policy where they claim how they don't fight wars. But you enable wars by selling weapons. Just because you don't fight it and you give your weapons, it's still enabling it. Yeah, you might not go on the battlefield, Sweden, but you enable it with your weapons. Your weapons are there, out there. It's risky to other people. It's affecting innocent people. So do you want to really keep lying to yourself, Swedish people, how you guys are the perfect humanitarians because your policy of neutralism where you don't get involved in wars, but you sell your weapons to wars on countries to enable them to kill themselves and turn their people into man-made refugees that have to migrate thousands and thousands of miles just to get a better life? And then you stand at the borders and pretend like, oh wait, we're open, we have an open policy to take in refugees, the same refugees that you created, the same man-made refugee that you created, Sweden. Because to be honest, let's really start being honest to ourselves. What are we really doing? What are we really, how is the Swedish humanity helpful when they are the ones selling weapons? Because no humanitarian country should be making the amount of money that Sweden is making from weapons. But Sweden makes a lot of money from weapons. One of the most lucrative industries in Sweden is the weapon industry. And then at the end of the day, again, Swedes are humanitarians. So we need to really understand where our problems are coming from today in the society if we really want to find help to it. If we are not ready to really sit down and do a critical analysis to get to the bottom of where is our problems, where are they coming from, who are the creators of our problems, Because sometimes our helpers are the creators, like Sweden, that is selling weapons and being a humanitarian country at the same time. So you create man-made refugees, you take the refugees, you use them again to create jobs for your people. Because when those refugees come to Sweden, they are being used to create jobs. They create jobs for Swedish people. They reduce unemployment here in Sweden. So at the end of the day, it's just a win-win for Sweden. So those people don't gain anything. All they have is that they lose more because they leave their homes. They're running from their houses because they have to come and live in Sweden or to another country. It might not be Sweden, but any other country because of what? Because of the fact that you're selling weapons. So we have to also start thinking like, what are we really? Who are really our humanitarians? Who are really the people that are really helping human beings? Are they really helping humans, or are they just doing a win-win situation for themselves? Because you have Sweden doing a win-win situation for themselves. First, they sell their weapons, which brings them a lot of money into their economy and keeps the economy afloat. Then they create man-made refugee, which those refugees now have to run from their own countries, and then they come back here to Sweden, which you create them, you use them again to create job. So you see that it's a win-win for Sweden, but not for the not for the people that they are claiming to be humanitarians towards. If you use Swedish people and the Swedish government, you really want to be a humanitarian country, I think you should stop selling weapons, because the purpose of humanity is to fight injustice and stop unnecessary wars that are uncalled for, that are creating man-made refugees, putting people homeless, giving people a hard time to have basic necessities. So if you really, Swedish people, really want to be the humanitarian superpower as you label yourselves, then you should stop the selling of weapons. Because as long as you guys sell weapons, to be honest, I'm going to be honest, and this is my personal opinion, I don't consider Sweden as a humanitarian superpower country, because a humanitarian superpower country should not be the ones selling weapons. They should be the ones trying to even advocate against the idea of selling weapons, because that is even where the problem is starting. To really start doing critical analysis on some of these our humanitarian countries and humanitarians that we are clapping for. How much do we know about them? Do we look at what they do? Do what they really do stand for the value of humanity, or stands for the pocket of them? So guys, that was it for today, and thank you all for watching, and thank you all for listening. I hope to see you guys again in my next video, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and also don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, called Analysis with Janet. And like I said, I hope to see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.